So the night before I went to the show, I had a sort of a brainwave, and I thought, I think there might be a way for IPW, who had been good to me and loyal to me in bringing me in, and I'd been loyal to them. I'd worked hard for that and stuff. I did all the promos with Martin. I didn't just take the money and run. So I came up with an idea to really give them a strong product, to make the guys loyal, to save them money, and to get them at least a show that was good enough for television. So I phoned Daniel Edler the day of the show, and I said, look, I'm going to come to the show tonight. Do you mind me putting this suggestion forward? Okay. I will take it on the chin if the guys don't like it, but let me air it and see what people say. So I said, I sat with everyone. Were you there when I did?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. I
sat with everybody and I said, listen, I don't want to be involved in this. I'm just throwing the idea out there. But like I've said, there's nowhere really for people to aim to work or whatever. So maybe if we got a supplement deal, all the guys were using supplements or whatever, just an idea. But if you've got a supplement deal, the guys basically, the supplement company, I could pull off a supplement deal. I knew that for a fact, as long as the guys were willing to pose for shots and that kind of stuff. The promotion pays you in supplements. You'd get more in supplements than you would in food, in cash. But that money that would be saved is not like, just that goes in the promoter's pocket. That money is spent on making a really, really good product, right? And those shows are sent to the head of talent relations for every company in the world, basically. So the guys, okay, there might be this whole thing about, some wrestlers work for very, very poor money, right? And we know that. So this thing about, I'm not doing something for free. It's like, but you would do it for 30 quid on a show in front of 100 people that's not recorded and that no one's ever going to remember, but you wouldn't do something that's going to get you a job overseas potentially for free. It just makes no sense to me. Like, it's a no-brainer. If the 30 quid's so important, then work in Tesco's and stack shelves. It's not, it's wrestling is about having fun, but also advancing your career, because it's a profession to you. You want to advance your career, and unless you consider £30 a night or 40 or even 50, or even if you're lucky, wow, big money, £100, and it's not, and that to some people that is considered the top of the totem pole in British wrestling. Then to me, it's a no-brainer. There needs to be an advancement point. So I put the idea out there, and again, some of the boys were a little bit sceptical.
I mean, how do you think it was received on that night?
I thought it was received really badly. In fact, I was so. Here's my thing. I don't think it's that the idea is bad. In fact, I know the idea is not bad, because that's the idea that we've basically enough gone to the boys with in a sort of similar way. So I know that I know it's not bad, because they all signed contracts saying something along the same lines. I think what it was Dan and Andy. I remember Andy Quilden once joked, we're going to make the Rise and Fall of FWA DVD soon. And I came up to him after my match or the following show and said, when's that Rise and Fall of IPW DVD coming out? Because it's not about things rising and falling. It's just about, there's only so much passion one person can have before they go, you know what, I need to tap out for a little bit. And so I think the guys were thinking, well, Dan and Andy might not be the people to pull it off, because they're burnt out. IPW's burnt out a little bit. It's not a knock on IPW. I think they do some awesome stuff, but just like FWA was losing some of that momentum, and that's why Andy's taken it in a totally different direction now. And I think he's doing booking some really good matches and stuff. So I think the perception of it was not as great. But what came from that again was Tony and Kelly saying, you know what, I am going to do this. And for Tony, Tony is now the MD of FWA. So.
Well, we'll come back to those some of the things you said are included in the principles for the new company. So
did I answer your question as to how the new FWA came out?
Yeah, actually, no, sorry, you didn't. Was it? So you're saying it was essentially you that?
No. Yeah, I had the. Yeah. What happened? I had the idea. Sorry, I just realised it's such a backstory. But if people are interested, if they're not, I guess they can just fast forward 5 minutes or whatever they want to do. But the backstory was Tony had decided, I'm going to help IPW UK and run these shows. And if anyone saw the music video of me making my return to IPW UK, and it was a really well-produced video which Tony edited, and the IPW hasn't looked that good, I don't think, ever. Like, it was really, really good production, and the lighting, and Tony spent a lot of money on lighting and stuff. So
these are the shows in Swanley.
These are the shows in Swanley, right? So what happened was he was having some problems, which I won't go into, but he had found that he wanted to come in and make an impact, and he wanted to put money in and do lots of stuff, but unfortunately he found there was a bit of a glass ceiling, because it's already two other people's company, so you can't really come in and make that impact if they're not willing to let you do it, and I can understand that as well. So he called me while I was in India and said, look, what's the chance of bringing the FWA back? And at the time I said, for it to be brought back, it would take a big team of people who know what they're doing. I would want to be involved in it in some way, because I'd feel like it is sort of my not my brainchild, but I'd feel like I'd want to help, and I'm here in India at the moment. I said, it's probably not the best time to do it, but, so I gave him other advice, and I was he was calling me a lot when I was in India, and I was giving him advice. So then, one thing that sort of came about, I'll just tell you really quickly, was, we've got these promoters in India who want to run 40,000-seater stadiums and stuff with me, and that, I want to do this, I want to do. They're people that have contracts with now. It's really, but this was because of the TNA thing. Because what's happened, we've gone into partnership to fly Verinder Singh to the UK. So I thought, well, they said we can run these shows, but then I'm thinking, well, if we had a TV product, a small television wrestling show in England where Varinder's, is a bodyguard for, say, RJ Singh or someone like that. Verinder can be on the television show in England, even if it's given for free to a network in England. I've got people in India that will pay for it because Varinder's on there, right? Then when we go back to that country, we're now a television entity, and I thought, well, maybe I should just get somebody to send Verinder over, get them on TV. Then when Tony phoned me again about the FWA, I said, you know what, there may be something we can do here, because I've got this stuff lined up in India. We could have a product that we could call it FWA because it's got a provable history. We've got all that back catalogue. I mean, the FWA back catalogue is, to a company like TNA, it's the only TV quality footage of people like, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, that they can use that isn't owned by WWE or ROH, right? So it made sense. It's got a provable 10-year history. So what happened from that point was when I came back from India, we'd already discussed, let's do it. And I said, I'll do it if I can come up with the strategy and the formula, because I believe that I've got something to bring. I said to Tony, you can run the business of it. Let me do the marketing and promotion and stuff I did for TNA, Ring of Honor, the Super Shows, FWA before, and let me bring in a team. And there's a team of people I think if we're going to do this, we need to get everybody sort of on board, and that's how it came about. So it was actually Tony who brought it about and has put the money into it and that kind of stuff.
Okay, now just before we talk about that team and talk about the principles by which the new FWA is going to run its affairs, let's just talk about the very idea, if you like, of bringing back the FWA. Now, a lot of people I've spoken with, there's a big buzz about this. A lot of people are excited about it, but there are also, I think it's fair to say, some fans who are sceptical about the whole thing. Now, let me phrase this. Let me put this into two main categories of things I've heard, perhaps, from fans. First one is that the original FWA kind of evolved in many ways as a rebellion against the more traditional kind of all-star pantomime-style wrestling that was prevalent in the country. As you said earlier on, it was to cater to those ECW fans who wanted shows with a storyline, an ongoing storyline and a different style of wrestling. Now, given that was the case at the time, is there still in 2009 the same rationale? And if not, what's the purpose for bringing back the FWA? And before you answer that, let me just briefly say the second one as well. Secondly, given the various unsuccessful relaunches, if you like, that the FWA had during its latter years before 2007, when it had its 2-year break, what makes this particular relaunch different? What relaunch
is that you're referring to? Before I answer the first one.
Well, I mean, not so much relaunches, but in the last couple of years of FWA's existence, when you weren't so involved in it, in fact, there were times when they went months without the show, and then they would come back with a show that, and it would almost be like they'd repackage the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think it was really relaunches. I think it was a case of, at that point, the people running FWA, when I was running FWA, our biggest shows were done. Frontiers of Honor, I mean, I've told this story before, there was no money. FWA, I was running FWA from my bedroom a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. There really was no money. So we had to invent, we had to pull in sponsors and people, so when it got taken over by people like Greg Lambert and Mark Kay, who are sensible adults, it's like, well, why run a show every month like they do with XWA if those shows aren't making money? We've got to do it, and so if they went a couple of months, we did tours and stuff, but they wanted to run it as a business that made money. As long as they weren't losing money, it was a business. So that's why there was a. But I don't think it was ever any relaunch or whatever. And actually, when they said to me, we want to scrap it, I said, well, at least scrap it to IPW UK, and but they found that the FWA had a stigma that they wanted to sort of drop. So I don't think there were any relaunches, and I think this is totally different for. Well, in fact, to tell you how this is different, shall I answer your first question, and the answer will be in there.